Hi everybody, welcome to the Assistive Technology Reading Supports Learning Series. This is the first of 3 newsletters, and for this newsletter we're really going to focus on some low-tech tools and high-tech tools that help students read. So sometimes it's necessary for students to listen to text, but this newsletter is focusing on some help to get students to be able to read the text. So I want to kind of get your bearings on the newsletter. I'll make this bigger so we can see it together in just a minute. But here, of course, will be where the recorded training is. And down at the bottom where it says share, when you click there, it's one of my favorite parts, you go to a sharing space where you can answer questions, ask questions, share what you've learned, what you're already doing. And so it's really important to get to that sharing space. Everyone likes to read everyone else's information. And if you're taking it for this series for sketches, then clicking on this link takes you to a simple form to fill out. The main thing is you need to know your email address for MOEX and your PIC. And of course, this is for sketches for people wanting their teacher certification. And you just answer a few simple questions. So let's get on with the newsletter part. Let's kind of blow this up a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. So some students may need text to be larger, a different color, less distractions. So there's things that we can do to help. I'm going to kind of scroll down, and just a reminder that at any time that we can, we want students to be in charge of that customization. And so having things around in the classroom, as well as the tool, having them familiar with tools on their computer would be great. So the first thing I want to talk about is color transparencies. So color can really make a big difference. Let me show you this. This just jumps to the next slide, but so look at this color here. For most of us, this might hurt our eyes a little bit distressful for them, especially if we had to read like that all the time. For some students with dyslexia, this is what white background and black text looks like to them. Not that the color, but the hurt part of it. But if I were to change this, so I'm just going to make a copy, and then just change the color so that you can see. So I'm just going to do white background, black text. And now which one is easier for you to read? So that's what I want you to say to students when you put, when you're using color overlays. So you can put a color overlay on paper or on inside of a book. You could even have like a couple of them, but just ask them if that is better for them. Which color do they prefer? That's as easy as it gets. And then we just let students choose the colors. And I have some tips for putting a sticker on a student's overlay so they can grab it quickly, or to use masking tape around the edges, right? So there's reading guides that are kind of smaller that can help also. So check out what this teacher's done. So with her reading guides, she's used just a plain transparency, but she's made a dark line on the transparency, and then the student can just kind of move the page down, and that dark line allows them to eye track across. So go ahead and read that article. It's pretty good. So again, just having these tools around as a universal tool that any student can grab can really help students and help with their fatigue of their eyes and for eye tracking. So another way, like for older students, might be to use sticky notes or to mark in the books. That's going to help with comprehension. And I have 2 articles here about that. What I liked is why use sticky notes? Really, so students can find parts of what they were reading quickly. That's kind of an obvious one. But we can also remind students to mark the confusing parts of a book, so then they can get clarification later, or a sticky note can hold thinking to share later. So again, and go ahead and read some of the other tips that they have. It's great information, things that I hadn't quite thought of. And then X marks the spot. The same gentleman wrote this, but a different page, talked about for students that can, or for books that you can write on or handouts, then the student would put an X to mean I found a key point, an exclamation point, I found something interesting or new information, and a question mark means this is confusing. So they would write that right in the book. And what my husband does, he kind of takes that another step further. He does a lot of reading and he marks in there, but because it's not a sticky note, you can't always find where you wrote your exclamation mark and question mark. And so he turns to the back of the book and he writes the page number, and then just a little brief thing, that little code for him. And so now he can go to the back of the book and look at the page number and then be able to jump to where he put his code. So sometimes husbands are handy to help out in other things. 2 options for intensive support. So by that I mean some students may need help just turning pages in a book. And so especially your little ones or students maybe with physical impairments. But this book, we have some page turners in there so that this is for a library book that you have to return. And so the page turners in here, or the page fluffers is a better word, are on paper clips. And so they can slip out and of a book, but their purpose is to raise the pages so that little fingers can go in there. So for a book that you can keep, that you have in your classroom, a really fast way is just to put Velcro dots in there. And so the Velcro will kind of help separate the pages. And if you are like me and you get freaked out because you've used all your soft Velcro and you have all this hard Velcro left over, and that's not, that's frustrating for your world, you could use a hot glue gun and just put dots of hot glue on there, or there's all kinds of crafts, right? So page fluffers for younger kids, or for kids who are having problems turning pages. And then also there's this special paper, I'll let you look at that on your own, but it is water resistant and rip resistant. So for those students who are tough on books, still create books for them that have pictures of themselves and their things of interest for them, but print them on this paper. You just need a laser jet printer, not an inkjet, but a copy machine works with this. It's regular kind of paper in a way, but totally waterproof and rip resistant. So moving on to some higher tech things. So Immersive Reader, it's an extension that's in Chromebooks, but it's also now it's in the Edge browser for iPads. So you would download the Edge browser app in an iPad and be able to use most of the tools that are inside of Immersive Reader. And there's some demos for that, but I wanted to show it to you myself, I guess. So Immersive Reader allows the student to change the text size, the color, some spacing issues. It can read it out loud. It can change the language. So it can turn into, you could easily translate it into Spanish. So let me jump to, here, we'll just jump here. And so I'm going to, I've already installed the Immersive Reader extension. So all I have to do is highlight some text, and I do a right mouse click and go to help me read this. That is the Immersive Reader extension name. And now it brings me to another page that has the text. And so if I click on the AA, then I can make the text bigger or smaller. This increased spacing, sometimes that has, research shows that that does help students. And then we also already talked about color, how that might help. If I click on this grammar options, then I can break the words up into syllables. See how there's a dot to represent syllables, and I could kind of even highlight all of the nouns to be purple, again, helping to build some of those reading and literacy skills. And then if I go to this reading options, then I can make my own reading guide so that the student just has to read a few lines at a time. And this is where I could choose a language. And there are tons of languages here where it would totally translate it. And again, we're not really talking about listening to text through this, but they could play to listen, and it would even speak it in that different language there. So Immersive Reader is a huge tool, totally free from Microsoft. It's built into a lot of products. I'd love for you to be using that. And if you have any more questions about it, make sure that you get a hold of me. So filtering out distractions is another kind of high-tech way to do. And that's available for free through Announcify, a Chrome extension, or ReaderView, which is part of an iPad, built into iPads. So let's try it here. Again, I already kind of have it downloaded. I'm going to show you the Chrome version, and then I'll show you some pictures for the iPad version. So here I'm on a website that you can see how there's some distractions. Other distractions I think will pop up here, and there's some down at the bottom, and we don't want our students kind of jumping all around. So if we turn on the that extension, it's called Announcify. So if I click on it, then it's going to kind of work in the background. It's going to open up a separate page that's just the Announcify page, and all of the distractions are stripped away from it, and all you get is text.
You are now listening to.
So it will also read out loud. So often I'll just kind of turn that off and then let students read through. Check that out. All the distractions are gone. So that's Announcify, this one at the end. So Announcify is, again, free, and an extension that every student should have, because the extensions are, or the distractions are not just for students with IEPs, right? We all need those distractions removed. The ReaderView, I'm just gonna, well, I'll let you guys go to that. Anyone with iPads, it just tells you how to turn it on, and how one way to turn it on so that it stays on for your students, so they don't have to toggle it on and off. It will always be on. So anytime a page that has distractions and ReaderView can change it, it will change it. Then lastly, I just wanted to talk briefly about the dyslexic font. So there's then a font called Open Dyslexic. It's free, and it's readily available for anyone to use. And by anyone, I mean any developer to use. So any app could be using it, any website. And what Google has done is they are now using Lexand as a default, not a default, sorry, a regular font in their font. So you don't have to download it. It's already in there, from what I understand. It was in mine. And so that's what this newsletter is written in, is Lexand. And so that's supposed to be easier on your eyes. And if you want to read more about it, this website, this article has a lot of information on the research behind that. So know that inside Google, there are the dyslexic font is already there, and I would highly recommend using that. But also, that doesn't work on websites. It's just inside Google Docs, because inside websites, they don't, Lexand doesn't work, right? Unless that company buys it and uses it. So there is a tool that inside the HelperBird extension is the dyslexic font. So this is HelperBird. I'm just going to turn it on, and HelperBird has a lot of stuff in it. By default, it has that dyslexic font. And so now you can see this website just changed. And so it has that, it's heavier on the bottom. That's been proven to help students read better. The students with dyslexia. I'm not saying it's right for every student. It shouldn't necessarily be a universal tool for everybody, but for some students who are struggling, this might be something to try out. Let's hop back to the newsletter. I think that's it, guys. So make sure that you go through everything, and there's support there, and certainly contact me, but feel free to ask questions in that sharing space also, and have a good day.